Women's rights continue to be at risk in the U.S., and we need to keep the conversations alive of what should be done so we can live progressive lives. Our next guest sits on the board of the Women's March and is the perfect person to help us move the needle. Political strategist, movement builder, activist, and mother of four, Ginna is joining us to talk about how we can be more inclusive for diverse and marginalized women's issues at the Women's March. And she's talking to us about how to keep the feminism movement momentum alive. This is Advocate Now. Ginna, it's so wonderful to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
We talk a lot about women's social justice on this show. You are the board president of Women's March Win. That is the sister organization to the Women's March. How is Women's March Win different than the Women's March, and what does that organization do?
Absolutely. Well, as you may know, organizations in this country, our nonprofit organizations, have to follow the laws of the IRS and the federal government. And those laws restrict what we can do politically and around campaigns and candidates. And so Women's March Win was launched in order for us to have flexibility to support the candidates who are going to build the future that we want to build, and allow us to have more flexibility in political times around elections and people who are running for office. So we want to be able to, with our PAC, which we are still in the process of growing and building into a real force, we want to be able to support the candidates, the women, the Black folks, the people of color, the gay folks, the trans folks. We want to support those candidates who can really deliver a message and deliver results for the people that we want to see.
How did you initially get involved with Women's March Win?
I was originally on the Women's March board, the C3 board, for a few years. And when we decided to transition into have an organization that could do more political work as opposed to the education work that the C3 does, I was right there and said, hey, sign me up, because I'm all about electing folks who can do the work that we need, and electing candidates from diverse backgrounds all across the country who can really deliver what we need for the American people.
Yeah, and Women's March Win unites women of all different backgrounds to create social change. So would you say that you've seen the landscape change for women over the past few years?
Definitely. Women's March has really been at the forefront of sort of empowering local, everyday women to be the change. And if you look at our list and you look at our people, we are everywhere. We are women of all walks of life, of all economic classes, of all educational backgrounds, really coming together and recognizing that this is the moment. Like, if we don't get together now, then we will find that the future is going to be not as great as we want. And so we've got to work hard in this moment today to build exactly that.
Nothing will stand in the way of this fight for our freedom.
We need local and state legislators to help us, not try to control us. Women are the experts in their own lives, and they should be the ones making the choices for their own bodies, not state legislatures.
We find ourselves fighting again for those same rights. Why would we follow a law that's 174 years behind the time?
The idea of feminism has often been branded from a cis white perspective. We're finally starting to see the inclusion of different races, different gender identities encompassed in that. How is that changing the women's movement as a whole, would you say?
Only for the better. I think, just as you said, Sonia, we saw a women's movement and feminism for many decades that excluded so many of us. And it is incredible to watch the growth and trajectory of a new feminist movement that actually is about justice for all and really recognizes the full depth and breadth of our womanhood. And exactly that is happening. And I don't think I could have imagined it happening this quickly, as we've seen over these last few years, as it has happened. And it's been incredibly gratifying to watch and see both seasoned veteran activists and organizers and young folks coming up from all walks of life and womanhood, into places of leadership and visibility.
Are there key areas or rights that you're focusing on right now for equality for women?
Well, I think you can't look too far before you think about abortion, and that being such a fundamental right that is in jeopardy for so many American women at this point in time. That has to be so key and so critical, maintaining that right for as many women as we can. And it should be all of us. And that's in jeopardy. And so that just feels so timely and so right for this moment.
And I'm sure you're hoping to get as many people as possible involved in the upcoming Women's March. What are some ways that you think you can achieve that?
I think we'll do that by speaking to people, everyday women, everyday folks, in the language and in their communities that fits them. Really being able to meet people where they are and talk about what's wrong, what's right, and what we can do together.
My mother was born in 1928, and she died with more rights than I have now.
And it's time to rematriate this land. And it's time for a fall of reckoning to protect the next 7 generations.
I want the women in Iran to know we see you, we hear you, and we stand with you.
We have nearly 1,000 actions taking place this weekend, half of them marches, half of them GOTV efforts to make sure that there is a women's wave 1 month from today.
There are so many ways that we can be a woman. What does womanhood mean to you?
Oh, goodness. That is such a tremendous question. Womanhood means to me that I'm actually able to be my full self at all times. Womanhood means that I can be as feminine as I want to on any given day, as masculine as I want to on any given day. I can be everything in between, and that's my choice. And that actually is part of what I think being a woman is having that choice, that freedom, that flexibility to be who I am at every moment.
When you look ahead to the future, say 10 years from now, how do you hope the landscape will have changed by then?
10 years from now, I have a 15-year-old daughter who'll be 25, and I have a 7-year-old daughter who'll be 17, which means that she will be heading off to college, and my older daughter will be in the workplace, maybe in grad school. I hope that they have choices. I hope that they are not, I hope that they have choices. I hope that they have rights to their bodily autonomy. I hope that they're able to make the decisions that work for them in the moments that they need them to work for them. I hope that they have as much opportunity as I feel like my grandmother and my mother scrapped really hard to make possible for me. And I hope that it's just easier for them to move ahead.
Since this is Advocate Now, is there anything else that you're advocating for right now?
Wow. Gosh, between an end to anti-Black racism, an end to anti-Semitism, a recognition of women's rights and bodily autonomy and personal freedom, that feels like a lot, to be honest. But I will also say that climate change is incredibly important. And I feel because its impacts are so disproportionately affecting BIPOC folks around the globe, that we can't do the work on all of the other issues without saving the planet that we live on.
So well said, and such an important conversation. Ginna, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Sonia Baghdadi. Thanks for watching and advocating. For more stories and content like this, visit advocate.com and advocatechannel.com.